This episode is brought to you by the RVA Podcast Network. Find more information at rvapodcast.org.
We do not own the rights to anything or any music that's heard during the duration of this podcast. Also, a lot of these shows will have explicit content. So if you are not a fan of any cursing or profanity, you may want to walk away, but that does not mean that every show will consist of such.
Welcome to season 6 of The Pass, BT. Didn't think we'd get here, but here we are. Show going a bit of a different direction, as you may have noticed near the end of season 5. Sports is still a thing, but not as much. You'll get more information about what's going on in the tech world, what's going on in the music world. We actually have kind of gotten rid of Ass of the Week. Once in a while, you may get one here and there, but I still want to stick with the main gist of passing the message to you all. So take your time, but don't waste your time as you sit and enjoy a new season of The Pass with your host, BT. What's good, y'all? Episode 355 of The Pass is here. BT back with y'all to do another episode, and I'm not gonna really give like the fun frills and thrills of anything. We just gonna go right into it because I had an experience this weekend, and also I do have one story that I will get into because I think it's relevant to talk about, since many Apple users will be, I don't want to say consumed, but intrigued about it. But I'll get into that in a moment. First things first, like I said, I'm doing these now as like a morning, kind of like a morning / weekly adjustment. And I will say this past week, working on like restarting, resetting, getting into the habit of like foods and what to consume and what not to consume, it's not for the weak at heart. I'll say it like that. That's really like my lightest yet most honest way to say it. I'm getting it done because I know I have to get it done, but it is like, you definitely know the true meaning or true definition of adversity or adjusting in trying to put the right things in your body, or also trying to do the right things to keep your body in motion. And like even this morning, like I got up and I'm like, yeah, I need to go walk. And I'm also like, I'm so chill, but you know, it is what it is. Anyway, I'll do like I did on the last episode, the trifecta. Mind is at about a 7 or 8. Pretty sharp, pretty keen, pretty in tune. Pretty relaxed, nothing extravagant. Body is at about a 6 or 7. I think last week, if you've been following my personal page, I've been doing more walking, and that's like just doing a quick walk in the morning has been like helpful. Like a lot of people will kind of give input saying, well, you should actually go running, and I'm like, everyone's not doing the same. Everyone's not on the same journey. And I think that I'm gonna hop into that a little bit when we get to pass the message, but I'm gonna save that. But I do want to say, like, you find that what works for you is what works for you. And if it's giving you the results you need, go along with what you know. It's almost like my comparison of it is, many of you know I've done this podcast about sports, but it's equivalent to if you play basketball. Everyone, for whatever reason, wanted me to be somebody that I wasn't. And I'm not saying that that's always the case, but at least from my personal experience, I knew that I was a shooter. That was it. Like all that trying to drive to the basket, and like I did it if I had to, but for the most part, like or even better, like I knew I was a shooter, but a lot of times or a lot of games, I would end up having to be a rebounder because that was what the team needed. So yeah, I would be able to do those things, but my stronger suit was shooting. So it's almost like stick to what you know. And yeah, just kind of trying to work what I'm doing to my advantage in that regard. Spiritually, my spirit right now is at about an 8. I would say like an 8 right now. It's teetering, but it's like I'm learning and making it my goal to definitely press through, because to be authentic, I have no choice. Your mind and your body opens up when you least expect it. I'll leave it at that. Run wild with your imagination on that. So like I said, I have a breakthrough. If you read the title, I have a breakthrough that I'm going to talk about. And then I'm going to talk about a unveiling that a lot of people have given their thoughts on. And I'm not sure if I did talk about this last week, then it may be a repeat breakdown, but I'm going to talk about it now. And just to make sure, because I don't believe I did, but I always like to be considerate. Yeah, I don't, looking at what I kind of titled or broke down, I don't see anything related to it. But yesterday, so a friend of mine, one of my coworkers, who pretty much like is kind of almost like the mentor mentee, like iron sharpens iron type of environment. And talking with him, we've had some conversations, and was like, hey, let's link up. We need to kind of just have a shoot the breeze and talk about some stuff. And we did. We talked about a lot. It's dope because as men, especially black men, it's very amazing when you can sit down and someone can tell you something and you're not mad. It's a challenge when it comes from the opposite, but that's another unpack for another day. I don't know when, but it is something that when it becomes a thing, it becomes a thing, and you really understand like why it's a thing. So, we sat down, we watched football. It was very eye-opening because I was watching. So we were watching the game that was on was Dallas and Chicago, which I'm okay with, because at the end of the day, it was good to just have football on. And he was a Chicago fan. Chicago was trying to make it a game, but then Dallas just ran away with it near the end. Like the momentum, in my opinion, the momentum shift was when Micah Parsons scored the fumble recovery. It was like a fumble recovery for a touchdown. That was like the switch of the game. So we were watching that game for a good while. And then they said, oh, well, we're going to have bonus coverage. We're going to go over to Carolina and Atlanta. So watching the Carolina and Atlanta game, and it was at a very big point because PJ Walker kind of does like basically a Hail Mary down the field. And he throws it, and DJ Moore catches the pass, scores a touchdown. As soon as he scores a touchdown, he took off his helmet. Now, let me take my fan hat off and just use common logic to make something clear. That most people already know this, but it's something that's almost like an unwritten yet not talked about code with football. You are not allowed to be larger or bigger than the shield under any circumstances. It's just not allowed. And if you do, then there's an issue. And that was mainly the case with what happened in this scenario. He did something that was bigger than the shield, and they weren't a fan. They penalized him for it, which the kicking team took the grunt of that by dealing with the actual kick. Like they added 15 yards to the extra point, which the kicker missed. And then in overtime, he had a field goal attempt. He missed that field goal. And the kicker for Atlanta was able to go up, score his field goal, and that ended the game. But that's not where I'm at about what I want to talk about. What I want to talk about is anyone who has access and or the ability to watch the NFL Red Zone. NFL Red Zone has been out for a while. I've heard of the term. I knew of the term. I did not know the magnitude of the NFL Network. For the second half of games, I think there were 4 games on. Seeing how they were able to bounce back and forth between games was so insane. But like I was explaining to my friend, it was like, hang on a sec. All right, let's try that again. Sorry about that. I was kind of back and forth on what was where I wanted to talk about, but I want to continue the thought that I had about the Red Zone because, like I said, after watching the games, 4:00 games come on, and so when the game started, I'm sitting there, and like I said, it was like, all right, we got 4 games on slate, whatever, and it's like they show a game, and before they show a game, it's like once you finish the highlight, it's to the next game, and it happens so quick. And how I explained it to my friend is, and I'm now intrigued to possibly see when or where I could like look at those type of look at games in that form because it definitely was designed for a man. And what I mean by that is men's attention span is just enough to pay attention to what's going on and keep it pushing. So it's like you watch a game goes off. Go to the next. I mean, once the highlight's done, next, give the next game. And it's consistently designed in that manner for the duration of that day. Now, why I was intrigued by it, and this is just my personal take, is I really wanted to see how it would have looked for the 1:00 games because it's like you get a highlight or you get an actual play. As soon as that play is done, they bounce you to another game. And it's almost like how I describe it or how I would look at it is it's like extended bonus coverage because you're getting coverage from an actual game and then that game's complete or that highlight's complete. And it's like, all right, well, we're going to go over to this game. And it's like, wait, but I was just watching, like, hold on. I didn't even process the fact, like, the perfect example of it that I saw that as to why it really hit for me was like a player got injured and the injury was like, super, he was still there sitting for a minute and they were like, yeah, so all right, that happened. Okay, we're gonna go over to San Francisco now. We're gonna watch San Fran in this game. And I was like, dang, it's so or we're going to LA now to watch San Francisco and LA or something like that. But it was fun and like I said, I'm intrigued because next week I want to see it as the 1:00 stature, but I want to see it like in real time, like to really, because I gave, like I said, I gave like the quick review or quick view of it in that moment, but I'm like, I'm intrigued and more attentive to it to see how it would go if it was more games since the 1:00 slate has like a larger amount of games to begin with. So I'm thinking about that. But what I do want to talk about is because I didn't talk about this much before, and I believe I happened to mention it initially, but Apple did I call it a surprise pull-up or surprise release. Was I excited about the release? I'll be 100% honest, not really. And the reason I say not really is because to some instances, yes, it was a big deal. But to some instances, it's almost like, did we really need what they released? And here's what I mean by that. The iPads, a couple of iPads got some facelifts. We'll put it that way and start with that, and then lead into the meat and potatoes of what went on. So let me make sure I get this right. The original iPad got a facelift, right? Which a lot of people have been waiting for that. They're like, what's taking it so long? I can't believe we're just getting to that point with, the original iPad getting a new look. But yeah, things happen. So they do that update, and it looks nice. It looks very promising. And how can I describe this? Because I'm gonna talk about the Pro in a second, but I want to talk about the original iPad first. The original iPad got some new looks, some new colors, some new styles, which are great. They only had one problem that I think was like ignored along the way. And that is the simple fact that if you're going to release an iPad that has the new look and the new feel, give the new look and new feel resources. And what I mean by that is they got everything right with the new iPad, that original iPad. I personally would order it, or would have ordered it if I didn't have the Pro. But what they did wrong, or what was not work, what doesn't work for it is how can I say this? They're using an old hardware or old item with a newer device. Brian, you're talking around it. Explain what you mean. Okay, let's get into it. Let's unpack this, because I feel like it needs to be talked about. The iPad, the newest iPad that came out, has a USB-C charger on it. So by default, anyone who knows the iPad ecosystem understands with the USB-C, that means that you're not going to be able to use the older the older Apple Pencil that's Lightning, because they have the option, and I have mine nearby somewhere, they have the option for the Apple Pencil 2. The Apple Pencil 2 is intended to literally snap to the side of the iPad. And you're probably going to hear it in a sec, so just like that. You probably heard all the other junk and stuff too. But what I'm saying is they made it with that feel and that aesthetic. So they should have been able to just add that in and be good to go. Not Apple. Apple finds a way to make another $1. And it's a $10 investment, but it's also having the equipment to do what this is asking you to do, which is now you have to plug. So you plug in the Apple Pencil at the bottom, but you have to have the adapter so that it can plug in between USB-C and Lightning. And I really don't think that was thought out very well for consumers, because most consumers, what they're going to do if you buy it online, you're not going to be prepared for it. Whereas if you buy it in store, like if you go to the Apple store, they're going to remind you, hey, make sure if you're buying this if you're looking to get the Apple Pencil, you want to be sure to buy this accessory. Logical, simple, direct way to do business. I personally, and to be fully transparent and to be fully honest, I personally have not used the original Apple Pencil at all. I was close to wanting to see if I would be able to use it or have it, because I had the iPad Mini for a while. And if you have been following the podcast, know I talked about that. That iPad Mini was my lifesaver of how I got through a lot of my podcast, because that was pretty much where I had all my articles and my stories. Now that they're going in this direction with that, now I'm hoping they just do it this one time, and then afterward, newer iPads, they'll use like those features. Because the reason I say this doesn't make sense, and the reason why it's not adding up, is because if you look at the iPad Air, you look at the iPad Mini, and you look at any of their other iPads that have the USB-C, they have that feature where they can, they are able to connect to USB-C, and they're using the A12, A13, A14 Bionic chips. So it has nothing to do with the whole, oh, it's an M1 or M2. None of that means anything, to be honest. Like, I'm not giving you that one. So that was how that's my overall assessment of the iPad, the original iPad. I think it's the 10th generation. I might be wrong. They then created, or then announced, which this announcement had been talked about already. So this one we saw coming. They announced the newer model of the iPad Pro. Now, I believe the model that I have is the I want to say that either it's the 2021 or the 2020 model. But the model I have has the M1 chip, which I'm fine with it. Like, I've used it. Like, the thing that's so crazy is I've used it for the minimal things that I'm doing for everyday things. And even with playing different games through Apple games, I'm still not remotely close to getting my full bang for my buck just yet. But they brought out the newer model, and now that version has the M2 chip. So that's going to be the bigger difference. It still uses Apple Pencil. It's still the likelihood of using it is still there. I'm not really sure how I can describe like the new iPad Pro, because like I said, they brought out the same color scheme, the same style, and a lot of people. I'm gonna address this because I know I'm kind of talking around it. I'm gonna address this because it is relevant yet important. With that particular model, they're not going to, like, people look at the Pro and they're like, why do they only have space gray and silver? Or space gray and silver. The reason why is because the iPad Pro is not intended to be it's not intended to have like the creative look and feel. It's intended to be used as a professional device. Even though, like, even my boy who got his, even though most of us are gonna put them in a case anyway, like I put mine's lives in a case. Like I don't have that functionality, or I can't play that risk factor of carrying my iPad without a case on it. Like when I got my iPad mini, by default, the mini had I literally got like the out of box case for it. And that was like the case that I used day in, day out. But with this one, I got the Logitech. It is the Logitech Combo Touch, which I personally would say if anyone were to get, the Combo Touch, if you are getting a set because you want to use it for keyboard and mouse, get the Combo Touch for a couple of reasons. One, and I'm gonna say something back to the regular iPad, because I don't think that feature is going to be there either, and I'm going to circle back to that in a second. The Combo Touch gives you the ability to use the keyboard and mouse, sit it just like you would sit a laptop, but you also can you can detach the keyboard, flip the keyboard, and put the keyboard, like have it as an accessory behind the iPad to give like an extra padding for holding it. But you can also detach the keyboard altogether and just hold it as a regular iPad. So it has a much wider flexibility. And again, taking no shots at Apple, but just giving the honest review, the Magic Keyboard lacked those features. So like with the Magic Keyboard, for instance, if you use it and you have your iPad vulnerable out there and it sits in this case, it sits in the Magic Keyboard, where you can pretty much, it's got the hovering look and feel, and you can use the mouse, you can use the keyboard, use the keyboard, use the touchpad or whatever. But then when you detach it, you're holding your iPad just out there. Now, I'm going to check something because I want to make sure that I'm giving the right information on this. The iPad that just got relaunched, I do not believe has the 3 dots on the back, because if it did, that generates a game changer as well, and it does not. So that's an important piece, and I'm going to explain what I mean by that. Most of the iPad Air and both of the iPad Pros that I know of have 3 dots on the back. If you don't know what I'm talking about, then just continue listening and I'll explain. These 3 dots connect to the 3 dots of, it kind of generates the ideology that your iPad has a multifunction feature or multifunction usage. So for instance, when you use the Magic Keyboard, like I said earlier, when you attach it to that felt, it now understands that it's attached through those prongs on the back of your iPad to connect to your keyboard to work properly. So if you charge, which a lot of people don't know this, if you charge the Magic Keyboard, it's charging the iPad. So you don't have to directly plug into your iPad to charge it, because the keyboard doesn't really require or need a charging factor. Same applies with the Combo Touch, which I need to test this out and I haven't had an opportunity to. If you disconnect, and anyone who has the Logitech Combo Touch that has used this, I just want some feedback to get an idea. If I detach the keyboard and I just use the iPad Pro by itself, but I leave it idle and not use it, does the battery go quicker or does it go slower? Because I'm wondering if that plays a part into its day-to-day usage. Why that's important and why I'm saying that about those 3 dots is because the new iPad that just came out doesn't have that. So you don't have that ability to connect to the device. Now I'm going to share this. This is an iPad Pro trick that a lot of people may not know. For a lot of you who have the Magic Keyboard, but have your iPad just vulnerable and not able to be in a case, there is actually a clear case that you can use, that you would literally sit your iPad in this case. That has to be this specific type of case, and you can pretty much use the Magic Keyboard with the iPad, and then when you detach it, now you have your iPad in a clear case. That's the only one that I've seen so far that, like, looking back on it, like I don't regret how I made my decision on my protection for my iPad at all. But knowing it now, I would have easily used that case with the Magic Keyboard and would have been just fine. And I know a lot of people who don't have iPads are like, why you keep talking about this Magic Keyboard? Because that keyboard was one of their staple products for the iPad Pro in general, because it gave you the look and feel of having an iPad. I mean, having a laptop without having a laptop. And also because it referenced the Magic look, it was like the iPad almost looked like it was hovering when you used it. So I know that's like a long-winded discussion of what just came out, but like I said, I like the new iPad 10th generation. I just wish that the tech specs were appealing enough to give you the option to use the Apple Pencil too. I think they're trying to hold what they can to get from the Apple Pencil one, because there really aren't, out of their iPad lineup, there aren't any iPads that really support that particular model unless you have like an older, I think because they still sell the 9th gen. Let me look real quick. iPad. Let's see which models you got. So the Pro, of course, we know the Pro doesn't. The Air doesn't. So the Pro, the Air, and the Mini all use the Apple Pencil too. The iPad itself, they have the 9th generation, which still uses Apple Pencil 1. and also the new iPad 10th generation, which uses Apple Pencil 1. I just, like I said, I'm always thinking about just the consumer's factor and making sure like it's convenient and not chaotic. That's really the number one priority and number one focus. At least it should be. And yeah, like I said, the new iPad Pro with the M2 chip. I think the M2 chip plays a big part. That's what's selling that device as well. All right. Pass the message. Probably going to be saying this in different forms or different styles for the next couple of weeks. Be who you are meant to be. And an added piece to that is stop seeking approval. Before I go into this, and I'm going to share this because it's probably going to be noticeable if it isn't already clear, my likelihood of doing how can I say this? My likelihood of doing TikTok videos to talk about different stuff is going to kind of be on a if I feel like it. I may do some reactions here and there, but I'm not really going to be pushing to do a lot of videos on it. And it's not that I'm hiding anything. It's not that I'm going through anything. It's just personal preference, and I'm finding it to work. So just keep an eye out. If you do see something, happen to hear about it, then it just was what it was in that moment. I say that because I'm going to be using the podcast to start putting more thoughts out there. But yeah, it's interesting that a couple of weeks ago I bought apparel from one of my coworkers, and on the apparel is Seek Ye First, and it ties into I believe I've linked his merch on my previous podcast. So if you go to the previous podcast, you should see that at the bottom of the show notes. If it's not in that episode, it'll be the one before it. But on his page, or on the business page, it says, "But seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you," which is from Matthew 6:33. Why I'm tying that into this is because we seek, or we look for, or we're searching for this approval and confirmation from people on what we are and what we aren't doing. And in the process, we're not taking into consideration what we should really be doing. What gift or what ability do you have? Many people have had this conversation with me. I have had this conversation with me of what gift or what ability I have that I should be utilizing more and more. And the more that I get closer to it, the more I know what it is. And now I know that it requires the work that I have to do. And I have to be accountable for that. And I circle it time and time again because I always like to say this, and I always like to remind myself. The accountability is the biggest factor and the most important piece of the equation that we ignore sometimes. So don't seek, like, the more you're seeking, the more you're looking for validation from people, the more you're not going to do whatever it is the thing that you're doing, because you're going to doubt yourself. You're going to second guess yourself. And even social media influencers, even the internet, all of that can get in the way if you allow it to. And this might be a space that I don't think anybody's going to be prepared for what I'm going to say with this, but do it because you know you can do it, not because you have something to prove to somebody else. I just recently got a accessory, which once it comes in, I think this is really about to change the game for me on a lot of levels. Because let's face it, our phones are our phones. We use technology to the core. But because we use technology so much, we don't give ourselves that opportunity to truly live or truly enjoy. And I'm beginning to realize that if I want to do stuff, like, yeah, I'm still supporting the Bagby brand. I still have the promo code in my link. In my show notes. If you want to get any any products from them, by all means, use that link, and that will get you set up there. But I'm also learning that I have to put myself in the driver's seat with some stuff, and I may need to turn it up a notch. So I think using, and this might sound crazy, using this accessory that I'm about to receive, as well as using the bag, I think will take it to another level. So we're going to try it out. We'll see how this, and it's not, and the funny thing is, it's not even me doing it for screen time. It's more so me doing it for getting back to what I need to get back to. Because let's face it, TikTok make money off of me. I ain't making no money off TikTok. Do with that information as you will. I'm going to share one final closing thought, and then we're going to wrap up, because I think someone may need to hear this, because even when I heard it, it made me really think of like, dang, this is really how it is out here. But let me get this video up, because it definitely became a breakthrough, even with me not knowing it was a breakthrough. Hang on one sec. All right, so let me give a forewarning. This is a little explicit, but it's a valid statement if you really think about it. So just do with it as you will.
And if you guys want to buy things without looking at the price tag, you got to be able to work without looking at the clock, man. I appreciate all you guys' support. It has been absolutely fucking insane lately, man. Hey, man.
Do with that as you will. If you work, hard work pays off, but it requires work. That's all I'm going to tell you. All right, y'all. It's been great. I know that's like a weird ending, but yeah, just wanted to share that because someone might need it. Y'all be blessed. Stay positive. Find the right people. Value folks where they are. If folks aren't valuing where you are, make moves. End the discussion. Y'all take it easy. Well, that was definitely a fun show. I hope you all learned something. I hope you all gained some information either about myself or about yourselves, because I know with the message that's passed along, it's usually meant to do a little bit of reflection, maybe some shadow work, not sure, all about your niche or lane. But I want to take time and utilize this section to share thank you to anyone who has taken time to listen to the show, to subscribe to the show, to leave any comment, to leave any feedback. If you want to leave any information, the pastbtpod@gmail.com. Podcasts are uploaded using Buzzsprout, probably one of my favorite platforms to be on. And to all my artists, if you know that you have a gift, share that gift with the rest of us, because we're waiting. Until next time, this is The Past signing out. Peace.